Hello everyone and welcome to another Heffy Doodle video. So like per usual, I don't know what I'm doing, but I do have Heffy Doodle's Prehistoric Pals, which is an adorable stamp set. I'm pumped!
And you can
but I have a
see
sinus
this
infection.
Is a nice, crisp, clean image. And I'm just going to take some
And I'm watching
scissors
Neenah.
and cut that out.
So now that you are aware of the situation, I am getting Neenah 110-pound cardstock, and I'm using the stitched DINO prints by Heffy Doodle, and I'm cutting out 4 prints. Now these are double stitch, so they have inside and outside stitching. That means it'll leave a nice stitch of a paw print on your paper if that's what you choose. I'm going to do something slightly different, and I'm creating a scene on each DINO print. So I'm taking the stamps and arranging them where I kind of want the scene to be laid out. Once I have an idea of how I want my scene on each print, I just move the paw print or the DINO print over into the MISTI and stamp. I'm using MFT's Extreme Black ink. This is a Copic friendly ink, and I'm stamping each mini scene on the paw prints. Or DINO prints, sorry. Now, even though I'm doing this, I'm aware that these paw prints are not going to fit on my card front. Okay, so I'm always conscious that I want my card to fit in my envelope, which is an A2 sized envelope. So I know that these paw or DINO prints are going to be kind of cut to fit into the envelope. Just bear with me. I'm stamping also some of the images on another piece of Neenah 110-pound cardstock just to get some variation in depth. If you do not enjoy watching Copic coloring, please skip ahead to the number below and you won't have to sit through it. I do have a Copic color map if you'd like a list of each marker that I use to color these images. I'm not going to show you all of them because that would be mind-numbingly boring. I'm just coloring my little cave woman, which is me, I guess. And then I'm using like an orangey, red-brown color, and she's got some sandals on, and the skin color is the E50s, and I've never used this for skin. I was really afraid that it would look more Simpson-like, but it actually turned out pretty good. I'm not disappointed in my cave people. I'm still working on my hair and skin techniques. I would love to take more classes, more Copic classes and learning how to do this, but I need more time. I need more time, I need more money, I need more energy, all of those things. They need to be in alignment, and they just aren't. Lately, I've really been enjoying using Faber Castell Goldfaber colored pencils to do some shading on my Copic colored images. And this is my cave woman! Isn't she great? So here's all the images that I've colored. I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut out the ones that I stamped on that other piece of Neenah. That way we can pop them up with some foam tape and add a little dimension to the card. So because I'm doing a voiceover right now, there's a guy out front cutting up the road with a chainsaw. Yes! So I'm cutting a piece of So Saffron by Stampin' Up! With a Heffy Doodle stitched rectangle die, the second from largest, and I'm taking the WILDSIDE stencil. This is like animal print. It could be any animal that you really want it to be. I don't know what I'm going for, but I'm going to tape it down to the back of tape my paper to the stencil. Okay, so I'm taping it on the back to the stencil. This worked okay for me, but I probably should have loosened the tack on the tape just slightly. I'm using hickory smoke because I didn't want to use black. I felt like black was going to be too harsh, so I don't know. Let's see how it turns out. I'm using a Nuvo blender brush. This is just a big stencil brush to me, but I love using it. It applies ink very lightly, so if you want like a heavier ink blend, you need to use like an ink blending tool, but this works really well for me. And I'm just going over the whole stencil, covering the background with the WILDSIDE print. Now I'm loading it into my Spellbinders Platinum with the embossing sandwich. Okay, so I'm using my stencil to emboss my paper. This is just gonna make that WILDSIDE animal print stand out just a little bit more. Here's where it became an issue with the tack. Like, this low tack tape was higher tack than I needed for this process, and it ripped my paper, but I went really slow and I peeled it off. Both sides were the same. Doesn't really affect the front, but hindsight's 20/20. It also doesn't help that I ran it through the die cutting machine and really smushed that tape in really good. So I'm prepping a piece of Tailored Expressions Earl Grey cardstock to do my sentiment. Another year Boulder with white, Ranger white embossing powder. So I've heat embossed in almost every video. I do it on all my cards practically. I love it. It's magic. See the magic? It's magic. Once I've worked my magic, I'm going to use the Heffy Doodle Strips of Ease to cut out my sentiment. Now there's 3 sizes, and the smallest one will fit, but I used the middle one. I wanted to give like a gray border around my sentiment. So I'm using it to cut out the one side in my Sizzix Sidekick. Once I run that through, I'm going to take a pair of scissors to chop off the end. This is just way faster for me, and it works. Now that I have all my parts and pieces, I can start to assemble my card. I'm using a piece of white craft foam and scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive to pop up that WILDSIDE background panel that I created. This works really well. Of course, I'm using a Simon Says Stamp Fog card base. Now I'm arranging my paw prints popped up with Scotch 3M foam tape.
Here we go. We're gonna cut it up. Oh!
Now I'm using my Tonic Studios Big Mama scissors to cut the DINO prints so that it fits in the envelope. Now for the sentiment that I've also popped up with Scotch 3M foam tape. This is sitting on top of those paw prints or DINO prints, and I'm also adding the accessories and the other images that I did. Some of them were popped up and some of them were adhered flat. But I think the card has tons of dimension, and you can still tell that they're DINO prints. I don't know. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the card. Find me, find Heffy Doodle on social media. I love interacting with you, and until next time.
What?
Okay, do the line.
I gave him my Wolfer's blanket warm.
You gotta do it more dramatic.
I gave him my Wolfer's blanket warm.
Thanks.
I want to go on my cat though.
I said the sheep with curly horn. I gave him my wool for his blanket warm.
Hey, can I hold the camera?
You wanna hold the camera?
See, that's big.
Hold it up so that you can see.
Yeah, that's cool. Look. Fire! I knew it.
All right, here we go. Daddy.
No pressure.